The Galactic Council had gathered in the grand chamber of Varelli's Prime, a massive citadel of silver spires and shimmering light. Representatives of hundreds of civilizations sat in a circular arrangement, each in their own pod of atmosphere and gravity. They had come to witness the final day of peace negotiations with humanity, a species that had risen from a single blue world only a few centuries ago and now stood as one of the most unpredictable powers in the stars. The council speaker, a tall being of translucent form named Arvel, rose with a fluid motion. His voice resonated across the chamber. Today, the matter of reparations and human disarmament will be concluded. Let us remind ourselves that peace requires humility and trust. From the human delegation side, silence lingered. The 4 delegates sat still, faces unreadable, dressed in dark uniforms with a silver emblem of a stylized earth upon their shoulders. Their leader, a man named Grant Hale, leaned forward and folded his hands upon the table. "We have listened to every demand," he said calmly. "We have tolerated every accusation, every insult, and every attempt to weaken our sovereignty. But if this is what you call peace, then we are done here." A ripple of confusion and disbelief spread through the assembly. Arvel's form shimmered with unease. "Ambassador Hale, are you refusing to continue these talks? The council has offered concessions." Grant's eyes hardened. "You've offered conditions of surrender disguised as peace. You demand that we dismantle our orbital fleets, reduce our colonies, and submit to trade restrictions that no other member faces. You call it stability. We call it submission." A murmur rose among the council members. The representatives of older empires, those that once ruled entire sectors, looked at the humans with a mix of irritation and faint fear. They remembered what had happened the last time someone tried to dictate terms to humanity. Entire fleets had vanished in the void. Borders had redrawn themselves overnight. Arvel raised his hand, glowing with soft blue light. "The Council does not wish for another conflict. Humanity's aggression has already destabilized several regions. We only ask that your species respect the balance of power." Grant stood, his voice steady. "The balance of power ended the day we joined your council. You expected us to kneel, but we adapted faster than you expected. You wanted our technology, our science, and our labor, but you never wanted us as equals. So now we will no longer play your game." Without another word, he turned and walked toward the chamber doors. His fellow delegates rose silently and followed him. The heavy sound of their boots echoed across the hall before the doors closed behind them with a final, metallic thud. For a long moment, the chamber was still. Then voices erupted from every corner, shocked, indignant, frightened. "This is a disaster," cried one reptilian envoy. "They cannot be allowed to leave. They hold the Helix gates and the Titan shipyards." "Let them go," hissed another from a race once known for its arrogance. "Without our trade routes, their colonies will starve." But deep down, every delegate knew it wasn't that simple. Humanity had never been dependent on the Council. They had always built, adapted, and survived on their own. Even when embargoed during the Rim Wars, they had created self-sustaining systems and forged alliances that bypassed traditional channels. Arvel sank back into his seat, his glow dimming. "Summon the Security Council. We must prepare contingency measures. The humans cannot be allowed to operate independently. It would threaten the balance of the entire galaxy." 2 weeks later, the human fleets withdrew from all Council-controlled sectors. Every ambassador, every diplomat, every trade envoy, gone overnight. Human communication relays went silent. The orbital embassies, once bustling with alien merchants, now stood empty. The stars themselves seemed to grow quieter. At first, the Council celebrated. Reports claimed that several trade routes reopened under alien control. Mineral rights were reassigned and human-built outposts were taken over by peacekeeping forces. But then the first signs appeared. Cargo convoys vanished in neutral space. Entire fleets reported navigational errors before disappearing into hyperspace anomalies. Colonies once supplied by human engineers began to experience cascading system failures. Artificial suns flickered out. Terraforming engines froze mid-process. None of it made sense until one council scientist noticed a pattern. "Every system affected," she said in a trembling voice, "was designed or maintained using human engineering. They've pulled the codes. Their infrastructure was holding the network together. Within months, the consequences became catastrophic. Trade slowed to a crawl. Star lanes reliant on human stabilizers collapsed. The wormhole gates humanity had once maintained flickered into instability. cutting off entire sectors. And still, there was no word from Earth. Far from the Council's reach within the Sol system, humanity was silent but not idle. In the darkness above Mars, massive structures orbited in silence, shipyards, docking rings, and dry docks the size of continents. There was no celebration, no speeches, only the hum of preparation. The fleets that had once served under the Council's joint command were being recalled and refitted under a single banner, one that bore no alien sigil. Grant Hale stood in the command center of the shipyard, gazing through the observation glass. Beyond the void, the flagship Erebus floated, her hull black as night and her engines glowing with restrained power. His aide, Commander Rian, stepped forward. The Council has sent 3 envoys requesting a private summit. They claim they wish to renegotiate terms. Grant didn't turn from the window. Renegotiate or control? Control, Ryan admitted. Grant nodded. Then they've learned nothing. He looked over the fleet status hologram. Thousands of vessels blinked in readiness. Every hull, every circuit, every weapon, human-made, independent, efficient. For too long, he thought, humanity had been the Council's safety valve, the power they could rely on but never respect. When disasters struck, humans were sent to rebuild. When pirates raided trade routes, human ships defended them. Yet every time, the Council repaid loyalty with suspicion. Now the balance had shifted. Humanity no longer needed them, but the galaxy still needed humanity. Months passed and the Council's situation worsened. Internal conflicts broke out as member races accused each other of sabotage. Refugee ships fled from collapsing colonies. Pirates filled the void left by the absent human patrols. In a desperate move, Arvel himself traveled to the edge of human space. The journey was long and silent, his vessel monitored but never challenged. When he arrived at the Sol Gate, a massive defense array the size of a moon scanned his ship. A message appeared across his console. State your purpose. Arvel hesitated before answering. I seek to speak with the representatives of Earth. I come with apologies and proposals of restoration. For nearly an hour, there was no reply. Then a new message appeared. Wait. He waited in silence as his vessel drifted among the cold stars. When the screen finally flickered to life, Grant Hale appeared, calm and distant. Arvel, he said, you shouldn't have come. I came because the galaxy is collapsing, Arvel said, his voice strained. The Council is breaking apart. Entire systems are dying. You must understand, we need your help. Grant regarded him for a long moment. When we warned the Council what would happen if they tried to chain us, they laughed. When we offered true cooperation, they mocked us. Now they beg. Arvel's form dimmed in shame. I was wrong. We were all wrong. We thought you sought domination. We feared what we could not understand. Grant stepped closer to the screen. And now? Now we understand that without humanity, the galaxy cannot hold. You built the systems that sustain it. You protected the lanes that kept it alive. Without you, everything falls apart. Grant was silent for a moment before he said, And what would you have us do? Rejoin the Council? Pretend nothing happened? No, Arvel said quietly. Not as servants. As equals. For a long time, Grant said nothing. Then slowly he nodded. If humanity returns, we will not be part of your council. We will lead it. Not through domination, but through structure. Through accountability. The era of manipulation ends here. Arvel bowed his head. Then let it begin anew. Within the next year, the Human Accord was born. It was not a government, but a framework. A network of cooperation where every civilization had equal voice. Yet none could act without transparency. The fleets of Earth restored the crippled trade routes. Human engineers rebuilt the broken gates. Worlds once abandoned were reborn under joint stewardship. The Council dissolved quietly, its flags lowered one by one. The new accord did not demand tribute, only cooperation. Those who refused were left to isolation, not punished, merely forgotten. Under human guidance, technology advanced at a pace unseen since the dawn of faster-than-light travel. Diseases that had plagued entire species were cured. Warring factions found mediation through shared progress. Humanity did not rule the stars, but it guided them, with patience and vigilance. Grant Hale stood once more in orbit above Earth, watching as the great ships of dozens of races gathered near the planet. There were no weapons, no threats, only purpose. Ryan approached him. Do you think they've learned? Grant smiled faintly. Learning is not the issue. Remembering is. He turned to the viewport, gazing at the distant stars. The council thought power came from dominance. We learned long ago that true strength comes from unity, and from knowing when to walk away. Below, the